It's important that each of us, and everyone we can bring with us, participate in the I Pledge campaign. I think we're all probably very familiar with 2 Chronicles 7:14. This is the well-known passage in which God promises that if we who are called by His name will humble ourselves and pray and seek His face and turn from our wicked ways, then He'll hear from heaven and heal our land. Certainly, America's health and healing starts with prayer. Earlier generations understood this, and by 1815, there had been over 1,400 government-issued calls to prayer in America. In fact, John Hancock himself personally issued 22 prayer proclamations, such as this one. This is an original. But Hancock understood that prayer by itself wasn't enough, that we couldn't just stop with prayer. As he admonished citizens in his day, I urge you, by all that's dear, by all that's honorable, by all that's sacred, not only that you pray, but that you act. We must seek God and appeal to Him for help, but then we also must do everything we can to make a difference. Remember 2 Chronicles 7:14? We're to pray, but it says that we're also to turn from our wicked ways. And that includes our inactivity and non-involvement, our sitting on the sidelines. This is part of the wicked ways from which American Christians in particular must turn. We have to rely on God, but we also have to take action. This is what made America free in the first place. When the American Revolution began, we had no major assets of our own to speak of. We'd been British colonies our entire existence. And now we're going to take on the greatest military power in the world with only our fledgling resources? Now, Britain had a formidable navy. I mean, they ruled the seas. So what are we supposed to do with that? Well, we could build our own navy, but in the early years, we didn't even have a national government, and so there's no way to fund a navy. But fortunately, in 1775, still almost a year before the Declaration of Independence, George Washington stepped up as an individual and personally commissioned 6 cruisers. Of course, those 6 ships from George Washington were much compared to the scores of ships in Britain's Navy, but that's what we had. And back then, all the ships in a nation's Navy flew their flag openly and visibly, and that way their fellow ships could avoid friendly fire and not sink the wrong ships. So the British had their flag, but not the Americans. I mean, we're brand new. We don't have a national flag yet. So how are we going to recognize our fellow ships? No problem. We'll create our first flag. And according to official records, it was a flag with a white background, a pine tree in the middle, and it included the motto, Appeal to Heaven. This was our first flag, and it flew on our Navy. A year later, after the Declaration was signed, the state of Massachusetts built its own state Navy, and this was also adopted as the official flag for their Navy. And then the Massachusetts Army adopted a flag for its ground forces with a similar motto, an appeal to God. As these official mottos and declarations and flags indicate, we openly relied on God. But we didn't stop there. That was just the first step. As John Hancock had urged, we prayed and we acted. This same combination of prayer and action remained a no-brainer for American Christians for generations afterwards. In fact, a century and a half after the Revolution, Teddy Roosevelt penned this book entitled Fear God and Take Your Own Part. As Teddy explained, but in addition to fearing God, it is necessary that we should be able and ready to take our own part. The man who cannot take his own part is a nuisance in the community, a source of weakness, an encouragement to wrongdoers, and an added burden to the men who wish to do what is right. If he cannot take his own part, then somebody else has to take it for him. There is no reason that God-fearing Christians should be a burden to anyone else, especially to the nation in general. We need to step up and carry our weight. As God-fearing people, we have a voice, and we also have overwhelming numbers. But if we continue to remain silent and uninvolved, we have no one to blame for the godless outcome but ourselves. So we have to appeal to God, but we also have to take action, and this is what I Pledge is all about.
Well, David is absolutely right. That is what I Pledge is all about. It's about prayer and about action. In fact, Lila, I have a replica of that flag, an appeal to heaven, flying at my home under the American flag.
Awesome.
Because I believe that is where we are as a nation. We must appeal to the God in heaven for the future of our country. But it is not prayer alone. We pray, then we get up emboldened by our prayers and we take action. So I want to encourage you to go to the website 123vote.com and take the pledge and challenge others to do the same.
And remember, part of that action is our vote and then getting other people to vote. Tonight is not just about us hearing this message, but it's about sharing that message with as many people as possible, because that will multiply the vote. So another thing I've heard talking with folks, especially about the issues that are so important to us as Christians and important to our nation, is, well, I only vote Democrat, or I only vote Republican. So Tony, what do we do with folks that are very with the party, but maybe the party isn't with them on the issues that matter?
Well, I believe that we need to chart a course that the party follows. I don't think we should follow a party, a political party. In fact, I encourage the church, as individuals, we need to influence the party structures, whichever one that is. But we need to represent God's values in the political arena. And pastors and churches, they don't need to take sides with the political party. We're not an appendage of any of the parties. Really the church is the moral conscience of the nation. And we need to be that and set the standard and vote according to biblical values. And I will tell you personally, I have supported Democratic candidates because they are Christian Democratic candidates. Now somebody say, well, I haven't seen them. Well, I have a hard time finding some of them in the Republican Party sometimes. We need to vote for the individual who represents biblical values in a particular race, regardless of what their party might be. Because we don't want any party thinking they have a lock on the Christian vote. The Christian vote will go when the candidates take a biblical stand for truth. That's when they'll get the support.
Very good. And remember, it's not so much about the party, it's about what we know to be true. And we can lead the party that we may like the best if we are willing to vote, no matter what the party says, for what we know are our values.
Or we may find another party. Who knows?
Make our own party.
That's right. We'll just have a party.
We'll have a party. There we go.